guys, you're stuck in lockdown like me and you're either watching YouTube videos or trying to be productive making a YouTube video. While I've been just browsing YouTube, I found so many videos on classic cars and of course the barn find, some spectacular barn find videos. But there's one thing that all these videos have in common. It's always a man's perspective. Always, okay, almost always, 99% of the time. Why? Is it a man's world? Do only boys like cars? Most definitely not. And that's why I'm here to give you a girl's perspective on classics. Now, before you think this is another automotive video and you say no, cars aren't for me, forget vintage and classic cars, that's far away, cars just aren't for me, stop. Just stop right there because this video is so much more than cars. I mean, does it have cars? Yes. Is it about a barn/garage with some really cool cars? Yes. But it's also about memories, it's also about emotions, it's about stories, adventures, sprinkled with a whole bunch of passion. So I'm sure that's something you can relate to. So now why don't you try and stick on and give it a shot. Now after that long introduction, it's time I introduce myself. I'm Rupali Prakash and today I'm going to give you a tour of our garage. Now I've spent most of my life literally in this garage or in our workshop watching a whole bunch of parts, just parts arrive in bags, sometimes in gunny bags and in shambles, and then seeing them magically transform into these most magnificent works of art. Now, before I go any further, a little backstory. Who do these cars belong to? I obviously didn't buy them. I mean, I couldn't afford that. So this beautiful collection is courtesy the hard work, the passion, the perseverance, the patience, the obsession and craziness of my father, who is fondly known as Doc. Yeah, you heard right, Doc, as in doctor. Yes. Is he a human doctor? Yes. Is he a car doctor? Most definitely yes, and that's why I'm sitting here today. He's a doctor in every sense of the word. So he spent the past 40 years arriving home with a whole bunch of different patients, as I like to call them. So whether it's these patients who have broken bones coming home, or patients who are in a coma, or patients who've just been abandoned, critically ill, forgotten, the world doesn't want them anymore, the world doesn't have time for them anymore, and they're just neglected. So this is when he brings them home, he sees hope and he wants to give them a second chance. So he, along with his team of specialists, spend years, when I say years, I mean sometimes 8 years, so close to a decade, doing everything they can to just bring these beautiful souls back to life. But do you know his secret? Do you know the secret behind bringing them back to life? It's the unconditional love that the three women in his family, that's my mom, my sister and myself, give these cars when they're in the operation theatre. So when you hear the tick 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 of the ignition, it's like a heartbeat. Or when you hear a backfire, it's like she just burped. Or when you hear the roar of the engine for the first time, it's literally like someone's been submerged underwater and they're like swimming up and gasping and like breathing air for the first time. And that's when you know they've done it again. They've brought one more soul back to life, one more member of our family going to join the crew on the fabulous adventures that we're going to be going on. So without keeping you much longer, let me take you for a tour.
It's so easy to see that you're in love with me. Carve your name next to mine on that big oak tree. That's how you want it to be. You bring me things from the store and put it at my front door. I've lost count of the times this have happened before. Not that I'm keeping score, 'cause I do the same for you, just like I'm supposed to do. I'm yours, you're mine.
Now that you've got a little tour of our garage, it's time for me to tell you a story. Now this story is about the first four-wheel vintage member of our family, the 1937 Sunbeam Tower. Now she turns 83 this year. She's a little younger than my nanny, but she's a very special grandma to me. So I want to first start by telling you a little about her history. Now you don't need to be a history buff to be fascinated by some of the adventures that these cars have been on. This car first belonged to the former Viceroy of India, Lord Mountbatten. And in fact, we found some amazing pictures online with Lord Mountbatten driving this car with his wife Edwina along with the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru. Now coming to how she came into my father's life. Just to give you a little backstory, my father used to rally and race, and he was an Indian national champ in the early 80s. So he saved up all his prize money and he decided to go and buy this car. So he travels to another city and he goes there, and when he reaches there he realizes that he can't really afford the car, but he makes friends with a lovely old couple and then returns home. So many months later, he got a telegram from the wife saying the husband had passed away and he had willed this car to my father. And that is what started this entire craziness. That is what started his passion, his obsession, and his just living and breathing these cars. Now this car has a lot of firsts. His first car, the first vintage car that my sister and I got to ever sit in and drive around in, the first vintage car that my mom drove in. In fact, she had a little ladies team where she'd sit with her friends in the front and us two girls would be at the back and we'd drive around for all these rallies. And watching that is actually what changed my perspective. Just seeing how comfortable she was with the car and how she personified it and always attached so many emotions and spoke to it and just gave it so much unconditional love is what made me realize that this world of vintage and classics, or historic vehicles as they're now called, can't be defined by gender. It can't be defined by the number of cars you have or the kind of cars and bikes you own, because for every individual it's their memory with their car or their adventure with their bike, and that's what makes it really special to them. So to me, this world is defined by pure passion, a truckload of emotions and unconditional love that you give to these family members.